I was driving through one hell of a blizzard. 9 damn hours of nothing but windshield wipers fighting off sheets of snow. And every mile I conquered felt like a battle I had to win all on my own. I clutched the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. My mind a furious storm of hope and dread. The cake in my trunk wasn't just a cake. It was my heart wrapped in sugar and frosting. A desperate, loving gesture for my sister's engagement party. Every fiber of my being screamed, "This is for you, Mia." Even though deep down I knew I was risking everything for a family that had never really embraced me. As I navigated the treacherous, ice-coated roads, memories flashed by years of feeling invisible, left out, and treated like an afterthought. I cursed the relentless weather, the absurdity of having to prove myself by driving through what seemed like an endless white nightmare. But I pushed forward because if love was worth fighting for, then I'd damn well fight through this storm. The radio crackled with static and barely coherent news bulletins that only reminded me how small and insignificant my plight was in the grand scheme of nature's cruelty. The wind howled like 1,000 lost souls, and at times I swear the storm was laughing at me. I kept telling myself, "Fuck this, I'm not backing down. I'm doing this for Mia." I wasn't just battling against nature. I was battling the weight of years of neglect and the sting of being cast aside. Every mile was a furious reminder of how far I had to go to make people see me, to force them to acknowledge the love I had stored up in a cake meant for celebration. The road seemed endless, a twisted, frozen tunnel where time lost all meaning. Yet every stoplight, every pause at a gas station, brought a brief moment of clarity. I could almost hear my own heartbeat, relentless and determined, echoing the promise I'd made to myself and to Mia. That no matter how goddamn hard it got, I wouldn't be silenced or forgotten. The sweat on my brow was mixed with the icy chill of the wind that seeped through my jacket, and for a brief moment, as I stared out into the chaotic beauty of the storm, I allowed myself to feel every pang of hope and every stab of fear. It was a cocktail of defiance and desperation, the kind that leaves you raw and exposed. Every turn of the road was a harsh lesson in resilience. I remember there were moments when I nearly swore off the whole damn journey. When the car skidded dangerously close to the edge of the road, and I could feel my pulse racing, my heart almost giving in to the fear of what might lie beyond that frosty barrier. But in those moments I closed my eyes and envisioned the look on Mia's face, her smile, her shock, the way she used to light up when we were kids. That thought was my fuel, driving me onward even when every instinct told me to just turn around and go home. I wasn't just doing this because I owed her a gesture. I was doing it because I needed to reclaim every bit of myself that had been shattered over the years by a family that never truly wanted me in the picture. It wasn't just the physical torment of the storm. It was the emotional baggage that I carried with me, heavier than any weight that the car could bear. I recalled past engagements, birthdays, and family dinners where I sat at the fringes, silently screaming, "Notice me!" Yet here I was defying the odds, risking my life on slick roads and against nature's fury. All for that one chance to be seen and loved. Every sliver of ice and every gust of wind seemed to whisper, "You're not worth it." But I spat back those words with every throttle of my engine. I was done listening to that bullshit. I deserved more than being a shadow in my own family story. As the storm raged and the snow piled higher around my car, turning the world into an endless, shimmering prison of white, I felt both small and monstrously powerful at the same time. I was a warrior in a battle that wasn't just against the elements but against years of bitter neglect. I wanted to scream to the heavens that my suffering mattered, that my journey wasn't a senseless, lonely road through nowhere. I was on a mission to force them to acknowledge that I had fought through every damn obstacle, that my love and sacrifice were worth more than the icy rejection I had been dealt time and time again. In that moment, the chaotic symphony of the storm became the soundtrack of my determination. A fierce, unyielding rhythm that kept me going when my body begged for rest, and my spirit trembled on the edge of despair. I was in the heart of the tempest, both literally and figuratively, and I knew there was no turning back. This was my fight, and no amount of snow or wind could ever erase the stubborn, blazing hope that burned within me. And as I pushed on through the storm, I promised myself that even if the family I cherished continued to treat me like shit, I would never let their apathy dim the fire of my own worth. By the time I pulled up to the estate, my legs were shaking, not just from exhaustion but from anticipation so sharp it felt like it might split me open. The tires crunched over a thick layer of snow packed down into ice, and the glow of golden lights wrapped around wrought iron gates flickered like a goddamn mirage. This was it. This was the moment I had envisioned the entire drive. Mia seeing me walk through the door, her eyes lighting up with surprise, maybe even tears, a tight hug, that cake glowing like a peace treaty in my hands. I killed the engine, looked at my own red-eyed reflection in the rearview mirror and whispered, "Please let this be worth it." But the second I stepped out, I could tell something was off. The air wasn't cold, it was frigid, heavy, like it was warning me. The valet blinked at me twice when I handed him the keys. "Are you catering?" he asked, squinting at the silver box in my arms. I let out a polite laugh, brushing it off. "No, I'm family." That should have been enough. It used to be enough. The moment I stepped into the main hall, the warmth from the chandelier lights and the soft scent of vanilla and roses should have felt like a welcome hug. But instead it was a slap to the face. No one looked at me. Or if they did, it was the kind of glance you give to a waiter who brought the wrong order. Women in designer gowns and painfully tight smiles turned their heads quickly. Some whispered behind manicured hands. One even raised an eyebrow like she was watching a drama unfold, and maybe I was the main act. I walked deeper into the house with the cake clutched tight to my chest like it could somehow shield me. I spotted Mia near the back of the room, laughing, gorgeous as ever in a blush silk dress, champagne glass in hand, curls perfectly styled, like she belonged on the cover of Brides today. And for a moment, just a breath, I believed I had made it in time to be part of her joy. Then she saw me. Her smile cracked. Her posture shifted. That glimmer in her eye turned cold. "You actually came," she said, and it landed like a punch to the gut. Not "you made it." Not "oh my god." Just, "You actually came?" Like my presence was a fucking inconvenience. "I drove all day," I said, forcing a smile that hurt my face. Surprise. She didn't even move toward me. Didn't reach for the box, didn't ask how I was. "I didn't think you'd, make it in this weather." "Well, I did," I replied, placing the cake gently on a side table, next to trays of overpriced macarons. "You're getting engaged." "I wouldn't miss it." Behind her, a bridesmaid leaned over and stage whispered, "She wasn't on the list, was she?" It wasn't even subtle. And Mia? She didn't correct her. Didn't even flinch. Her eyes just scanned the room like she was already plotting how to explain me away. "I'll be right back," she mumbled, already halfway turned. And just like that, she vanished into the crowd. I stood there like furniture. No greeting from family. No welcome drink. I was wallpaper in a room I used to call home. I found my mom near the fireplace, dressed to the nines in navy with pearls that screamed money and control. She gave me a quick air kiss, cold as the wind I'd driven through, and said with that tight-lipped smile she reserves for social events, "Just don't make this about you, okay? Tonight is for Mia." I swallowed hard. Of course. But she wasn't done. Her eyes flicked down to the wet hem of my coat. "You could have changed before walking in," she muttered like I was some embarrassment she had to explain away. I wanted to scream. I changed in a goddamn gas station restroom after nearly dying on a mountain pass for this fucking party. But all I said was, "Sure." Ethan passed by, Mia's fiancé. I smiled at him, trying to salvage a shred of grace. He gave me a nod. A fucking nod. Like I was the mailman dropping off coupons. As I drifted around the room, the party blurred. Laughter echoed from corners I wasn't welcome in. I stared at the name cards on every immaculately set table, reading each one twice. Mine wasn't there. Not even a typo. Not even a damn sticky note. Then I heard it. Near the dessert table, two women giggling. One said, "Drama magnet. Every family's got one." The other responded, "Maybe she thinks this is her rehearsal dinner." I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I just stood still, holding a solo cup of water with both hands like it might anchor me to the floor. The cake I'd risked my life for? Still sitting untouched on that side table like a relic nobody wanted. It was supposed to be a celebration. Felt like a fucking ambush. And in that moment I realized I hadn't walked into a party. I'd walked into a setup. I tried to blend into the walls. I really did. I stood there with a forced-ass smile, my coat dripping onto the polished marble, pretending like I was part of the celebration instead of a ghost that had accidentally wandered into someone else's fairy tale. But no matter how hard I faked it, the truth started bleeding through the cracks. And then came the moment that finally snapped the last thread holding me together. I slipped into the coat room to drop my things, hoping for 2 minutes of quiet, just to fucking breathe. The room was lined with little gift bags, ornate white boxes with gold ribbon stacked neatly on a tray labeled bridal party gifts. I counted 10. Each one had a delicate tag with names written in elegant calligraphy. Every name but mine. Not even a blank one I could pretend was for me. I sat on the bench, my back against the wall, my hands shaking. I told myself I shouldn't be surprised. I wasn't technically part of the bridal party. But you know what? I was her goddamn sister. That should have meant something. I wasn't asking for a tiara or a speech. I just wanted to not feel like a fucking afterthought. Then my phone buzzed. It was a group text. A chat thread called Mia's Bridal Crew Ring Ribbon. I wasn't supposed to be in it. Maybe someone added me by accident. Maybe the universe was just done with subtlety. At first it was generic. Hair appointments, dress fittings, emoji spam. Then I saw it. A message from earlier that same day, sent straight from Mia's number. She doesn't fit the look. We'll say the list was full. I read it 3 times. My throat dried up. My chest felt like it caved in on itself. She doesn't fit the look. That's what I was, bad aesthetic. Like a sofa that clashed with the curtains. I stared at the screen so long it started to blur. Then I deleted the whole thread. Not because it didn't matter, because it mattered too fucking much. But I couldn't look at it anymore. I couldn't sit in that room with sugared gift boxes and 10 fucking names that weren't mine and pretend like I hadn't just been gutted. I stepped outside. The cold air hit my face like a slap. My boots crunched into the snow and I stood there just breathing, trying not to cry. Not because I didn't want to cry, I just didn't want them to see it. Because God forbid I show 1 ounce of vulnerability. They'd turned that into a whole new narrative. I turned to go back in and took a wrong hallway, ended up in the back near the service corridor, where the polished decor gave way to white tile and stainless steel. I paused to catch my breath. And that's when I heard it. Laughter. Familiar voices. Mia. And Zara. They were just around the corner, tipsy and giggling. Their words bouncing off the walls like they had no idea anyone else might be listening. Zara's voice was first. I can't believe she actually drove here. Her laugh was sharp, brittle. 9 hours through a blizzard for what, a pity cupcake? Mia's voice followed, syrupy and smug. Honestly, if she'd crashed, at least it would have been quiet. I could have used the sympathy. They both laughed. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I stood there, clutching the wall, every cell in my body screaming not to believe what I was hearing. But it was her voice. It was Mia. Not in anger. Not in pain. Just casual cruelty, the kind that only comes when the joke has been rehearsed, when the punchline is old news. I backed away slowly, heart pounding so hard I swear I could hear it over their cackling. I couldn't walk straight. I stumbled down a hallway that smelled like rosemary and bleach, found another bathroom, locked myself in a stall and collapsed. This time I didn't fight the tears. I cried like someone mourning a death because in a way I was the death of the version of Mia I had kept alive in my mind. The one who still loved me. The one who maybe never even existed. And worst of all, no one had checked on me. Not Mom. Not Ethan. Not even Mia, who knew I was there. I pulled out my phone just to confirm what I already knew. My last message to Mom. Just arrived. Can't wait to see everyone. It had been read. No reply. The silence was its own kind of scream. And in that moment something shifted in me. I wasn't sad anymore. I was done. Done being their secret embarrassment. Done begging for a seat at a table I helped set. They'd written me out of the story before I even arrived. But I was about to make damn sure they remembered I was there. I don't know how long I sat there, curled up in that cramped stall, arms wrapped around my coat like it was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. The tile wall was cold against my back, but my face burned. The tears didn't come in sobs. They came slow and steady, like a leaky faucet that no one ever cared enough to fix. And maybe that's what I was. Some broken thing left to drip in the background of their perfect, curated lives. I thought I'd reached my breaking point earlier that night. I was wrong. This was the real breaking. The kind you don't bounce back from. The kind that reshapes you. Eventually, I wiped my face with the sleeve of my coat, stood up and stared at myself in the mirror. Red eyes. Smudged mascara. Jaw tight. I didn't look like the woman who'd arrived with a cake and hope. I looked like a ghost at her own funeral. I walked back toward the main hall, head down, heart caged in ice. I passed through the kitchen and there it was, the cake. Still untouched. Still sealed in its beautiful silver box with the gold ribbon I'd picked out at 1 a.m., whispering, "Make it look perfect. She deserves perfect." No one had even looked at it. I opened the lid anyway. It was stunning. 3 layers of lemon sponge with sugared violets. A fondant banner that read, "To love, to laughter, to forever." It was a fucking masterpiece. And it meant nothing to them. A server spotted me. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, guests aren't allowed." "I'm just leaving," I said, voice flat. He didn't argue. I slipped out the service exit, back into the snow, back into the only place I hadn't felt completely erased. The wind bit at my cheeks, but somehow it hurt less than what I just heard from my own sister. I got in the car, slammed the door shut, and stared straight ahead, hands clenched on the steering wheel. 14 missed calls. All from numbers I recognized. But none of them mattered. I powered off my phone, tossed it onto the passenger seat. That night I didn't go home. I found a rundown roadside motel with a flickering neon sign, and a front desk guy who didn't even ask for my ID when I paid in cash. I didn't want a record of being there. I didn't want to exist. I crashed on the bed fully clothed, the cake box still haunting me in the back of my mind, like a symbol of everything I had given that no one asked for, and no one appreciated. I didn't turn on the TV. I didn't scroll my phone. I just lay there in silence, letting every word I overheard replay in my head. If she'd crashed, I could have used the silence. That wasn't a joke. That was a funeral wish dressed in humor. And I was done pretending it didn't fucking wreck me. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the dusty blinds like it was trying to apologize for what the night had done. My phone blinked to life. I checked it, bracing myself for more venom. And there it was. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. But not one started with, "Are you okay?" Instead, "You embarrassed Mia. Why would you leave the cake and disappear? You always make things about you." And the one that felt like acid in my stomach from my mother in the family group chat. "She's been emotionally unstable lately. Just give her space." That was the narrative now. That I'd had a meltdown. That I'd caused a scene. That I couldn't handle someone else's joy. No one mentioned the cake. No one asked why I left. No one wondered what the hell Mia and Zara had been laughing about in the service hallway. Because the truth would have been too inconvenient. They needed a villain. And like always, they nominated me without a vote. Later that morning, Mia posted a photo on Instagram. She was glowing, standing with her bridesmaids in matching white faux fur shawls, champagne glass in hand, captioned, "A perfect night with all the people I love. Hashtag blessed, hashtag engaged, life ring sparkles." I stared at it for a full minute. I wasn't in the photo. I wasn't tagged. Hell, I wasn't even a footnote. And that's when it hit me. They didn't just want me gone. They wanted me erased. I didn't cry when I saw Mia's post. Not because it didn't hurt, but because something in me had already snapped clean in half. There was no room left for tears. Just silence. Heavy, final, suffocating silence. Like when the credits roll on a movie you hoped would end differently but didn't. I sat in that shitty motel chair, staring at my cracked phone screen while the cheap heater clanked like it was dying in slow motion. I kept reading the caption over and over. "A perfect night with all the people I love." I wasn't one of them. I never had been. A message popped up from an old friend, someone I hadn't heard from in years. "Hey, weren't you supposed to be at Mia's party? She said you couldn't make it. Everything okay?" She said I couldn't make it. She didn't even say I left. She rewrote it like I was never there at all. Like the blizzard, the cake, the hours on the road, the humiliation, the whole damn thing never happened. And just like that, it became crystal clear. They weren't just ignoring the truth. They were editing it. I felt something twist inside me. Something old and bitter and tired finally cracking loose. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was done. I scrolled through my camera roll and found the photo I'd taken through the side kitchen window at the estate. The cake box, still sealed, still untouched, sitting on the counter like a relic. I took that photo not out of pettiness but for proof. Because one day someone might ask, was it really that bad? And I would need to say, yes, it was. And here's what you didn't see. I plugged my phone in and checked my voicemail. There were 14 missed calls. Only one message. It was from Mia. Look, we need to talk. But not in front of people. You took things way too personally. I didn't delete it. I just let it sit there like a cold cup of coffee you have no intention of drinking. I sat still for a long time, watching the snow outside turn from white to gray in the slush along the curb. And then for the first time in years I smiled. Not because I felt better, but because I finally stopped explaining. Let them talk. Let them twist. Let them paint me as dramatic, unstable, difficult. They'd already written their version of the story. But now, I was ready to write mine. The next morning I sat at my tiny kitchen table back in the city, the scent of old coffee and melted snow still clinging to my coat. My phone buzzed again. It was Mia. I hadn't planned to answer, but I was done hiding behind silence. So I tapped accept and leaned the phone against the sugar canister. Her face filled the screen. Perfect, polished, mascara still fresh like her image depended on it. And it probably did. She didn't even say hello. You picked the weirdest time to ghost, she started, all fake casual. People are asking questions. I didn't say a word. She leaned in, her voice dropping like she was about to deliver some sisterly wisdom. You always overreact. You take things too personally. This weekend wasn't about you. Still, I stayed quiet. I'd learned something that weekend. Silence makes them uncomfortable, not me. She tried again. I didn't mean for you to hear anything, she said, like that was supposed to make it better. You know how I get when I'm nervous. I say dumb things. Zara was just being funny. You took it out of context. She was waiting. For what? Forgiveness? Guilt? Me falling back into my assigned role as the quiet one who never fought back? But I didn't flinch. Instead, I straightened my spine and finally spoke. I nearly died getting there, Mia. She blinked. I drove through a fucking blizzard. I brought a cake I ordered weeks ago. I was drenched, cold, exhausted, but I showed up. And what I got in return was hearing you joke about me crashing. About how silence would have been more convenient. Her expression changed, tightened into that panicked little smirk she always uses when she's cornered. That's not fair. No, I cut her off calm and clear. What's not fair is being treated like a ghost at your event. No seat. No photos. No acknowledgement. You erased me from your engagement like I was a stain on your perfect white dress. She scoffed, her voice rising. You're making this into a whole thing. I'm not the villain here. I tilted my head. Then stop acting like one. Her mouth opened. She started talking faster, louder, desperate to regain control of the story. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just reached down, hit mute, and let her talk. For 30 seconds I watched her flail on the screen. Then I ended the call. No slamming. No drama. Just a quiet final click. For once, she got to feel what it's like to speak into silence. And I felt free. After I ended the call, I sat there for a while, staring at the black screen like it still had something to say. My hand was steady. My heart wasn't racing. There was no shaking, no guilt. Just stillness. And maybe for the first time in a long damn time, peace. Then I opened my laptop. I clicked compose and started an email. Subject line. Clean receipt. Cake Mia's engagement. I attached the catering invoice, complete with the rush fee and custom decoration cost. The body of the email only had one sentence. Attached is the receipt for the cake I paid for, the one that got left behind. I sent it to Mom, to Aunt Nora, to Mia. Minutes later, a reply popped up from Mom's address. Just 4 fucking words. This isn't helping, Cassandra. I leaned back in my chair, exhaled slow. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just another attempt to steer the spotlight away from what actually mattered. But I wasn't 15 anymore, trying to prove I belonged at the adult table. I wasn't 22, celebrating my first job alone because no one showed up. I wasn't the girl begging for approval anymore. I was documenting. And the truth was finally louder than their curated silence. By the time I finished my second cup of coffee, I had a new email in my inbox. Subject line enough. It was from Mom. And this one hit different, not angry, not concerned. No, it was strategic. Cold and surgical. You've embarrassed our family enough. You're lucky you were even invited. Don't ruin Mia's future out of jealousy. Attached underneath? A screenshot from a group chat titled, Family Core. Planning only. I wasn't in it. Of course I wasn't. But they were talking about me. Mia had written, "She's not well. You know she always twists things. Just wait. She'll spin this into some sob story." Mom had replied with a goddamn thumbs up emoji. And Zara chimed in. We tried to include her. She's the one who always makes everything dramatic. I read that thread 5 times. Not because I didn't get it the first time, but because the rehearsed betrayal hit harder than I expected. They had contingency plans for my existence, a script for my meltdown, and when I didn't give them one, they invented it. I leaned back from the screen, heart tight but not broken. The radiator hissed beside me like it agreed, like it had seen this kind of quiet rot before. I wasn't even mad. I was awake. That afternoon, I got a Slack message from a coworker. Hey, just FYI. Someone shared a screenshot of a vague IG post from a bride-to-be. People are asking if that's you. Said her sister caused a meltdown. You okay? My pulse spiked. I checked Instagram again. Scrolled through Mia's profile. There it was. A pastel-filtered photo of her holding champagne. Head tilted back in laughter like she was posing for a glamorized forgiveness tour. The caption read, "Sometimes jealousy wears a familiar face, but real love always shines through." She didn't tag me. She didn't need to. Everyone who knew both of us would know exactly who the jealous one was. And that might have been enough to ruin me. But it wasn't just her post anymore. A wedding gossip blog had reposted the photo, with an anonymous tip from a bridesmaid at a recent upstate celebration, claiming that a family member arrived uninvited, caused a scene, demanded attention, and stormed out. That's when I realized this wasn't family drama anymore. This was public. And that changed everything. I didn't scream. I didn't rant. Instead, I opened a folder on my desktop titled, Truth. Inside were photos of snow-covered roads, screenshots of group messages, a video of the untouched cake through the kitchen window, a blurry selfie of me standing outside the venue, cheeks red from the cold, holding that stupid silver box like it still meant something. I posted 3 images on Instagram, the cake sitting alone under the warm kitchen light, my frost-covered windshield after 9 hours of driving, me standing outside the venue soaking wet trying to smile. The caption, "Sometimes you show up for people who wouldn't shovel your name off a sidewalk. But that's how you learn. Some things you do out of love. Some things teach you who deserves it." I turned off the comments 2 hours later, right after they started pouring in. Some were supportive. Some were confused. Some were just nosy. I didn't answer any of them, because I'd given them enough. Then I opened Gmail. Attached the group chat screenshots and Mia's Instagram post to a new email. Recipient? The PR department at Ethan's company. I didn't include a message. Just the evidence. If he wanted a marriage built on curated lies, I figured he deserved to see how they got constructed. No revenge. Just consequences. And maybe finally, silence on my terms. The snow returned that evening, light, quiet, almost apologetic. I watched it fall from my window as I curled up on the couch with a blanket, letting the hush settle over me like armor. My phone buzzed again. One message from Zara. "You didn't hear this from me, but Ethan just postponed the engagement dinner with his parents." Said, something came up. I stared at it for a second. No shock. No gloating. Just clarity. The storm finally cracked the foundation. I didn't reply. Didn't need to. Because I wasn't chasing validation anymore. The next morning, I showed up at Aunt Nora's house for the family brunch. I wasn't planning on attending at first, but something in me knew it was time. Not for revenge, not for spectacle, just for truth. The second I walked through the door, I felt it. That weird pressure in the air, like a thunderstorm had just passed, but the lightning still hadn't struck. Aunt Nora gave me a shoulder squeeze and whispered in my ear, "Don't let them make you small." White platters of melon slices and croissants covered the tables. People wore cream sweaters and fake smiles, acting like nothing had exploded online the night before. Like my post hadn't gone mildly viral. Like their text messages hadn't been exposed. I took a seat by the window, as far from the center as possible. Most people avoided eye contact. A few sent me tight, performative nods. And Mia? Mia stood at the far end of the dining room like she was hosting a political fundraiser. Champagne flute in hand. Hair perfect. Expression curated. She tapped her glass. I just want to say, she began, dragging out her words like honey-dripped poison. This week has reminded me how beautiful it is when family chooses love over ego. There it was. The dig. Polished. Passive. Weaponized. Someone laughed nervously. I felt several pairs of eyes flicker in my direction, unsure of whether to look away or brace for impact. I sipped my orange juice. Then I stood up. Calm. Deliberate. Mind if I say something too? The room fell so silent you could hear the fork drop from Aunt Diane's hand. Mia's face froze. I took a slow breath, then said, I drove 9 hours through a snowstorm for that party. I brought a cake I paid for, which sat untouched in the kitchen. While people who claimed to love me laughed about how peaceful things would have been if I'd died on the road. Zara choked on her mimosa. My mother's face went pale. Mia tried to interject. Cassandra, that's not. I raised my hand, not to silence her, but to hold the floor for once. I heard you, Mia. You and Zara. Through the kitchen door. Laughing about how it would have been better if I didn't show up at all. She shook her head, fake shocked. That was taken out of context. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out my phone, unlocked it. Hit play. The room filled with the sound of their voices. Mia laughing. 9 hours for what? A pity cupcake. Zara snorting. What if she crashed? Imagine the sympathy. Then their laughter. Unmistakable. Ugly. Real. I paused the recording. Looked around the room. That's the context. Ethan, standing near the back, blinked at Mia like he didn't recognize the woman in front of him. My mother reached for her wine glass with shaking fingers. No one said a word. No one could. Mia lunged toward me. You don't get to twist this. I stepped back, phone still in hand. You twisted it the second you decided humiliation was easier than honesty. Her voice sharpened. I called you jealous because you are. I didn't flinch. And I called your bluff. Her mouth opened to argue, but the room had shifted. The silence wasn't awkward anymore. It was sharp, like a blade slicing clean through years of bullshit. I didn't stay for dessert. As I walked toward the front door, Aunt Nora followed me. Her hand rested gently on my back, firm and quiet. You didn't just clear your name, honey, she whispered. You burned the whole damn script. I didn't reply. I didn't have to, because for the first time in years, they finally heard me. The silence they left behind followed me home. But this time, I didn't carry it like a burden. I let it sit next to me, quiet but harmless, like an old ghost that no longer knew how to haunt. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because I was anxious, but because something inside me had finally settled. When you walk through a storm that fierce and come out standing, it's not the storm you remember. It's the stillness after. The kind that feels like truth. The next morning, before I even rolled out of bed, my phone buzzed 3 times. First, a message from Monica, a childhood neighbor I hadn't spoken to in years. Did you hear? The engagement dinner's off. His parents asked for a pause. That's their word, not mine. I stared at the screen. Not shock. Not victory. Just quiet confirmation that truth, when spoken clearly, echoes farther than any curated lie. Next, a vague Facebook post from Aunt Nora. Truth burns at first, but it sets you free if you're ready. No names. No hashtags. But anyone who'd been at brunch would know exactly what she meant. And then the kicker. A photo shared in the family group thread. It was me, standing mid-sentence at brunch, holding the metaphorical mic. Captioned, unhinged, attention-seeking. Just like always. No one even tried to hide it anymore. And that's when I realized something that felt almost holy. I didn't need to reply. I didn't need to defend myself. That version of me, the one who ached to explain, who begged silently, please just see me. She was gone. I poured a cup of coffee, opened the curtains and stared out at the slushy street below. Across the room, an old box of journals sat half open. I reached in, flipped through pages of past heartbreaks, old versions of myself. One page stopped me. Maybe if I'm quieter, they'll love me louder. I tore it out. Lit a match over the kitchen sink. Watched it turn to ash. That girl didn't live here anymore. The sun crawled across the floor like it was trying to warm everything it had missed the last few days. Then my phone buzzed again. Ethan. Mia's fiancé. Or maybe not anymore. I'm sorry, he wrote. You didn't deserve that. I heard everything. I didn't speak up and I regret it. I read it twice. Not because I needed to feel vindicated, but because accountability hits different than empty apologies. It didn't fix anything. But it reminded me I wasn't crazy. An hour later, another message. Zara. Yeah, Zara. I'm not proud of who I was that night. That was it. No excuses. No gaslighting. Just a quiet sentence that hit harder than any insult she'd ever whispered. That night, I sat at my kitchen table and opened a new post draft. Sometimes it takes a blizzard to see clearly. This is for anyone who's ever been made to feel like they were too much just for existing. I didn't post it. Not yet. Because I didn't need a spotlight anymore. Just space. Just breath. Just peace. And then, as if on cue, another message came in. Just one word. Mia. Please. I stared at it for a long time. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. I didn't smile. Because now I understood the difference between missing someone and missing who you hoped they could be. I placed the phone down. Didn't respond. Not out of cruelty. But because some doors don't need slamming to stay closed. A week passed before I finally called her. She answered like she'd been holding her breath since brunch. You just left me, she whispered. You disappeared, Cassandra. After everything. I leaned back into the couch. Same spot I collapsed into the night I got home from the storm. And I said simply, that's how I felt since I was 9, Mia. There was no venom in my voice. Just truth. She didn't argue. Didn't spin. Didn't fight. I messed up, she said. I was cruel. I didn't want you to come because I knew people would compare us again. And I hated the way that made me feel. I nodded, though she couldn't see it. Then you should have told me, I replied. I still would have sent the cake. I just wouldn't have driven through a blizzard to deliver it myself. There was a pause on the other end. I started therapy this week. I closed my eyes. Part disbelief. Part relief. Good, I said softly. That's the most human thing I've heard you say in years. She tried to laugh. It didn't quite land. Ethan hasn't spoken to me since the brunch, she added. He said he needs time. I let that hang in the air. Maybe he's learning what I did, I said. That silence can be louder than screaming. Mia started crying. Not performance tears. Real ones. I didn't comfort her. I didn't coddle her. But I didn't hang up either. I don't hate you, I said at last. But I can't go back to how things were. I'm done playing the background. We stayed on the line a moment longer, breathing through the distance. Then we hung up. No drama. Just done. Later that night, I opened that post I'd saved and reread it 3 times. And then I hit publish. To the quiet one at the table. You are not invisible. You don't need their permission to speak. Sometimes your story begins where their lies end. I didn't check comments. I didn't need to. The next morning, I walked to the little bakery near my apartment, the same one I'd gone to a month ago, when I ordered the cake that never got cut. This time I asked for something simple. White frosting. Gold dust. No names. No message. Just peace. Back home, I lit a candle on top, sliced the first piece for myself and sat by the window. No toast. No tears. Just quiet. Complete. Outside, the snow had melted. Puddles formed along the curb, reflecting clear blue sky overhead. Because sometimes the storm doesn't come to destroy, comes to clear the air.